And I love it because there's so many realtors out there that literally build their business based off the referral program. They don't go out of their house. They haven't showed a home in 5 years yet. They get a paycheck every month because they built up this awesome referral network. And it's just one more way to utilize that beautiful little certification as a licensed real estate agent.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys talked me into it as well. So I'm about to go to Fort Stewart. I'm going to get my license, so you can go ahead and add me to your referral.
Okay.
your referral network. So I'm going to do the same thing. So it sounds amazing as an extra stream of income too. So. Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Dan Wynn.
And Mike Glaspie.
And welcome to the Military Cash Flow. Today, we have a very special guest. Jessica, would you mind just going to introducing yourself and letting us know a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yep, thanks for having me on. I'm Jessica Dean, and I'm currently living at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where my husband's currently stationed. And this is our third time living here, so and hopefully final time. So he'll be retiring in a little bit less than 2 years. So we're excited. But we're both originally from up north, but we decided to make the Fayetteville, North Carolina area our home. So, and then as soon as we PCS'd here this last time, about a little over 2 years ago, that's when I decided to get my real estate license to finally jumpstart my career for a change.
That's great. That's great. I hear Fort Bragg has a habit of, there's a couple duty stations that I hear have a habit of bringing you back all the time. So it's crazy you say you've been there 3 times, and now it's brought you back enough times to where you're finally deciding to make it your home, huh?
Yes. Yeah, we keep hopping back and forth from here and Fort Stewart, Georgia. So
that's where I
want to go somewhere different. Huh?
Nice. That's where I started off, and that's where I'm about to go back to right now. So I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah.
That's another one that sucks you back in.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's a small world. There's only so many military bases that are constant. So you're probably going to, if you're in long enough, you will definitely run across the same people, the same faces with the same locations. You got to love it.
Yep. It's a small world.
All right. Great. So, military spouses, I think we have a pretty large following of military spouses as well. What do you have any I guess advice that you would give to any of the military spouses that are out there that might be listening and are kind of, because you kind of alluded to it, right? You said we're here and I want to start my career for a change, right? Like kind of going back to your career. So I assume jumping around, it's kind of hard for you to kind of, I don't know, find your own career or find your I guess stay in a stable place. That has to be kind of tough, right?
Yeah, it is, especially because, when you're married to someone in the military, it's like we move to somewhere new, but of course their career is the same and they're not starting too much from scratch. But as the spouse, you're pretty much brand new, you're starting fresh, especially, I don't know, if you don't have like a degree in something, maybe if you're a nurse, you can transfer to a hospital. But so I pretty much jumped around from like retail and banking and hospitals, and I just did something new pretty much everywhere we PCS to. But I really wish now that I would have jumped into real estate like years ago, when before we had children. So, because I didn't know all the details that came into working real estate, like all the benefits it had, until I actually finally got into it.
So tell me, what I kind of want to touch on that. I want you to really highlight the benefits, but what originally had you choose real estate? You said you did retail, you said you did a little bit of hospital work, but what was the final decision that said, let me give real estate a try?
Well, my husband, he's big into real estate, and he he did a lot of researching and like investing and all that. So he kept telling me, he's like, oh, I think you would be a great realtor. And, because, pretty much the benefits, like the sky's the limit with the salary. And, but I'm just like, I was hesitant for years because it's not a steady paycheck. It's like you don't get paid until you close on a deal. And, to me, that kind of scared me. But finally, I think after reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, after reading that, it got like the motivation to just stop being scared and just jump in. So then I finally, like, it took me years to get up the courage to finally like do it. So then I'm like, okay, after my PCS, I know it's going to be our last duty station. So I'm just going to go to school and then just start it finally. And I don't know, that's what I say. I regret that. I wish I would have done it like years ago instead of being so scared. But
so what would you have done if you can rewind? Let's say your husband doesn't retire, so he's been in for about 18 years. Let's say you can rewind 18 years. Where would you have started, and what do you think you would have done, especially to mitigate those bounces in duty stations every 3 years or so? Because I know it's got to be tough to get a new real estate license every single time you go to a different state. So what would you have done 18 years ago? What advice would you have given yourself knowing what you know now?
Yeah, so I would have like definitely got my license and built my career a little bit like wherever I was and built relationships. So if PCS, if I didn't want to get my license at that new state, I could have just kept them, active, and then in the other state I was in, and then I could have just did referrals, or I could have done like admin work, do like transaction coordinating. So I'm like, you don't have to be there to do that. You can just do that from anywhere. So I didn't know there's so many options doing that. So then, of course, we keep going back to Fort Bragg. So I'm like, if I just kept my license from the get-go, then I could have, built, even bigger and successful business by now. And, so then I would have been all set. But
I love that. And you mentioned briefly, you said that there's so many benefits to real estate. What are some of those benefits that you found over the years?
Yeah, so yes, like I didn't know, like a lot of people, they don't even sell houses. They just do like a referral business. Like that's it. So it's like, you have referral partners all over the world, and it's like you don't have to sell a house. Like that's pretty simple. So like that's an option, and just doing like the administration work. Because my thing now is having children. I can't like physically go into the office like all the time, because I still want to be at home with my children and like need to like take care of them, especially because my husband's coming and going all the time. And I'm sure that's the same thing with being active duty and trying to start your business. Like you don't have time to go sit in the office like all week. So I just love the flexibility that I can just literally work from anywhere. Like as long as I have my phone, like I'm working.
All right. So with all those benefits that you said, the biggest one I think is a key takeaway is that flexibility, like you mentioned. I know for a fact, while I started, I was active duty, and it was very difficult to really build up momentum when you would get deployed or when you would go to a 2-month training or whatever the case is. And you, as a military spouse, yes, your husband is deploying. He's going away on training. You have to be there for your children. So you can't be stuck, or it's not very advantageous for you to be stuck at a 9-to-5, for you to be stuck at something where you're on call, in the middle of the night or whatever the case may be. So the flexibility allows you to build your own business at your pace, build your momentum, and not lose it over time, which I think is super, super huge aspect of real estate.
And I love the fact, and I'm just kind of becoming open to that as well, or just kind of realizing that we put out a video a couple of days ago where me and Mike were talking about the advantages, or should investors get their real estate license, and you touched on it and you said the referral business, right? Can you talk about that just a little bit for maybe there's people out there that don't understand like what the referral business is and how you can leverage that to make an additional stream of income, even if you're not actually in the state or from wherever you're at?
Yes. So, I don't know, usually like on Facebook all the time, you'll see other agents. Like I'm in a lot of different realtor Facebook pages, and they'll like, oh, I'm looking for a Fort Bragg, North Carolina realtor. So then you can, of course, take that one yourself, or you can just like refer another agent or vice versa. I have a good referring partner like at Fort Stewart. So if I see anybody ever looking at Fort Stewart, I will like recommend her and stuff like that. Usually about 25% of whatever commission that you get out of the 3%. And then it could, sometimes people take up to like 30% or more. So whatever basically that other agent wants to charge you for pretty much giving you their client. So it's a win-win for everybody.
That's awesome. So do you have a referral agent, like one agent at pretty much every duty station? That way you can, someone's going to go to one of these places, Fort Drum, Fort Carson, Fort Stewart. So do you have one at each location? And then as soon as you hear about a person about the PCS, you're like, hey, let me hook you up with one of my partners. Is that pretty much how that works?
Yeah, I'm definitely building more onto that because I don't have as many like in the area. So that's one thing I definitely want to build more referral businesses as well. So I'm definitely need to work on that. But yeah, I know a lot of people they have referral partners all over.
And I love it because there's so many realtors out there that literally build their business based off the referral program. They don't go out of their house. They haven't showed a home in 5 years yet. They get a paycheck every month because they built up this awesome referral network. And it's just one more way to utilize that beautiful little certification as a licensed real estate agent.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys talked me into it as well. So I'm about to go to Fort Stewart. I'm going to get my license. So you can go ahead and add me to your referral,
Okay.
your referral network. So I'm going to do the same thing. So it sounds amazing as an extra stream of income too. So let's talk investing. All right. So how did you, I know you said your husband's pretty big into investing and understanding things. Was it you guys collectively or together went at it, or did he kind of have to kind of reel you in a little bit to it, or how did that work?
Yeah, he's more like jump in, like let's do it. And of course I think of like any and everything wrong that could possibly happen. So it makes me nervous and a little bit skeptical about doing things like that. But like our first house we bought was at Fort Stewart, and I think I was only 21 years old when we bought our first house, and when we were trying to sell it a couple years later, I think that was in 2009. That's when the market was horrible.
Yeah.
So we ended up having to rent it. So then that kind of ended up being like an accidental investment property. So learning that aspect of renting it. So I feel like we've probably been through like anything and everything that could possibly go wrong with having a rental like happen to us. So we definitely learned a lot. And then when we PCS'ed back to Bragg the second time, we bought another house, which we ended up having to rent that too. So then we ended up having 2 rental properties that we were managing. And then when we moved back to Bragg the third time, we bought like another house. So then it's like we have a house, we have 2 rentals. So just dealing with that. Eventually we do want to possibly buy a couple investment properties to flip. Like that's our main goal. I keep trying to talk to my husband and convince him to do like an Airbnb, because I think those are way better than the like long-term rentals. So, I mean, there's just so many different avenues. And luckily with me having like a license, and I recently had to sell, 2 of our personal houses and then bought another house all at the same time. So like that was kind of stressful, but at least I didn't have to pay that commission to the listing agent. So I had to pay the 3% to the buyer's agent. So that saved us like a ton of money in the long run.
Nice.
I love that so much. So you were able to, first off, my first rental was the same way. I bought it with a VA and I knew if I sold it, I wasn't going to make any money. So I ended up renting it, accidental landlord, and now I invest all the time. But that's a great lesson learned because now you can provide that information to your clients. But what I love was that last little nugget, the 3% you saved on 3 transactions at the same time. If the license paid for itself at that point, like,
yeah.
it's so beneficial.
All right. Hey, I want to get into some of the nitty gritty of the lessons learned on that first, I guess the accidental rental, or, you didn't really have a choice. You just kind of got it at 09. I mean, you can't really do anything there. So let's get into the nitty gritty of that. What are some of the lessons learned? Some of the things that, if you could talk to yourself again, then when you're 21 years old, or I say maybe 22 or 23 by the time you're about to sell it, that you would tell yourself now?
Definitely, if you want to rent, try not to do it yourself. And especially if you're not going to physically be in the area, I definitely suggest getting like a rental company, because I think the first 2 tenants, we tried to do it on our own and it was a nightmare where, they would pay this month, but not pay next month, or pay half this month and then nothing next month. And then, of course, but then you're scared to like lose them altogether. So then you just okay what they're doing, just to have someone in the house paying something every month. But then we eventually learned to get like actual rental company. So then they take care of everything for us. So that's been a lifesaver. And I didn't realize either, after we moved out and then ended up going to a rental, we didn't realize that our homeowner's insurance changed to a different policy. So I just assumed it would be cheaper because we weren't physically living there. But no, like they charged us more, and then our mortgage went way up. So for a while there, we were paying out of pocket just to pay the difference from what we were getting from rent to pay our mortgage. So, and it's just been a mess. But we actually still have that one property. So hopefully one day maybe we'll get rid of it. But.
Yes.
but that's such an I'm so glad that you talked on that and you touched on that, because I think that's one of the biggest, I've said it a couple times, that like a single family home, or if you're living in it, it's not an asset. And a lot of people disagree with me, but it's for that exact reason. That's one of the reasons why I've said that a few times, kind of agreeing with, I guess, the Robert Kiyosaki mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
You talked about the Rich Dad Poor Dad as well. I think that's definitely true. And I'm glad you touched on that piece. So
there's a lot when you said begin with the end in mind. Obviously, that was an accidental landlord situation, right? You obviously intended to live in it and then hopefully sell it. Circumstances didn't allow it. But many people will say, going back to find a property management company in the area, many people will say, hey, I want to manage it myself, to get a feel for it. And I always ask them, what's your intent in 5 to 10 years? Do you still plan on managing your portfolio? 9 times out of 10, they say no. Then I say, why would you start managing it now? Because ultimately you need to understand how to manage the manager. That's more important for your specific goals. So don't waste your time. And during that time, you were trying to save as much money as you could because you weren't going to cash flow much. But that manager would have just provided so much more convenience for you, especially, being states apart,
Yeah, big time. I've been telling people that that same thing as well. Like, so 10%, let's say you're renting it out for, let's say $2,000, is $200 worth of your, to manage a tenant, to chase a tenant around, to do all this stuff, $200 a month. I mean, I feel like, your time is probably worth more than $200 a month, which you would pay a property manager to actually do stuff. Now, and again, beginning with the end in mind, if you factor that into your cash flow, then you don't have anything to worry about either way. That it's just a great investment.
Right.
What was the split, if you don't mind sharing that? You said that you were paying out of pocket at one point in time. Mm-hmm. How much were you paying the difference?
But for a little bit, it probably wasn't too much, maybe like $50 a month. So, and then eventually we decided to refinance like years ago. And then our mortgage payment went down a lot. So now we're actually making probably at least around like $200 a month.
Oh, that's good. That's really
Yeah.
good. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. So, so you tried to self-manage for a while. Are you still self-managing now, or did you put in a property or get a property manager?
Yeah, I still have the same property manager taking care of it in Georgia. So
Excellent.
yeah, so
Excellent.
I've learned. I definitely I know a lot of realtors, they get their license and then they like to do rental properties too, but I think from my personal experience and trauma, like I can't do it. I don't want anything to do with rental properties.
Hey, I tried the same thing myself. I tried to manage my units myself, and I failed miserably. I had to go through like 2 evictions at the same time, and that's when I decided, all right, it's not worth it. Let me just pass this off to someone else. You know.
I think we've all experienced that. Like the property management aspect, that takes a very unique personality to be able to follow up and have that type of patience with the tenants and things like that. I was cut from a different cloth. It's not for me.
Yep.
And there's tenants out there that specifically look for people that are renting by owner. Like they know that if you're not a property manager, you're likely not going to be as strict and know all the rules, you know? So I know that there's tenants out there that are like, oh, I'm looking for someone who's not a property manager, someone who's renting, you know, someone who owns a home that's going to rent it out specifically for those exact reasons. They'll pay a little bit and then they won't pay a little bit. Like I went through the same thing. So I think we've all learned those lessons. That's again, I'm glad you talked about that.
So Jessica, I got a question. So you've been with your husband. The husband's been in for 18 years now, right? He's been in
Yes.
closely. Okay. You've traveled from different locations. You have children. You started your own career. Out of all of that, what has been the most challenging thing for you as a military spouse?
Probably just not having like a career, and like the jobs that I did have, they weren't a career, you know, and it was just like, I knew it was just temporary. And, you know, one of the PCSs, I just ended up staying like at home with my kids because I knew we were only going to be there for a short time. And so I just didn't feel like it was worthwhile to try to do anything. So definitely not having the career, and then I don't feel like I'm contributing to the household financially. So like that's been a big thing. And for me, since my husband, you know, he is retiring in like less than 2 years, like my goal is to get my real estate business at at a good point, I guess, to help with his transition when he gets out of the military. And like, because he's taken care of, you know, me and our 3 boys, you know, for years, and financially, and like having to deploy all the time and go training and schooling. So it's like, I wanted to try to like give back to him. So if he wants to retire and just take some time off, like he can, you know, because we'll financially be okay. So that's my main goal.
So that's actually a good point. Now, obviously, me and Dan, we served active, and actually Dan's wife is still in the military, correct?
Yeah, we're both still active.
Okay, but we haven't really seen, or at least I haven't, from the military spouse's perspective. And I'm pretty sure that you've met many military spouses throughout your husband's career. But is that a general mindset? Is where the spouse is looking to find a way to kind of contribute and ultimately, you know, find some way to sort of replace that income when it's all said and done?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the spouses, they try to do some kind of work from home job just so they can make some extra cash and, you know, still be at home with the kids because, you know, daycare costs a fortune.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of them do go to school, I've noticed. So then maybe once their husbands get out or they retire, they'll have their degrees, so then they can finally start like their career. I see it all the time. So it's just, that's why it's like, you know, I wish I would have known more about the real estate business to start it. Cause I'm like, I could have done it years ago and worked at home. Because, at first I think I thought you had to go into the office at that whatever firm you're at, or, you're mandatory to be there on the weekends, or you have to be there. So I'm like, I don't want nothing, like none of that. Like I want my own business and come and go as I want. So now I just have my office set up basically at my house, and I run it the way I want to run it. So it works.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
I think that entrepreneur mindset is what really is allowing you all of the upside that you were chasing, being able to contribute to the family, being able to replace that income and allow your husband to relax in the next 2-3 years if he chose to. And yet you have no cap on your limit of your income, but you have as much freedom in your flexibility. So that's amazing. I love how you were able to marry up what your goals and aspirations were with the perfect career field and just boom, succeed from there.
Yes. I know. I just want like everybody to like do real estate. If I see all these moms at home, they're like, I want to, what's a good stay-at-home job? I'm like,
real estate.
Ever think about getting your license?
Yeah.
Like if I can do it, you can do it. Like, let's go.
Absolutely.
I think that's the common misconception is, and I had the same thing until literally like 2 weeks ago when we were talking about it. But if you get your license, and you're going to spend all your time either sitting at a desk, making cold calls, or out on appointments, showing homes and things like that. And, based off what you're saying, you and Mike are pretty much are living. That's not the case. You don't have to do that. There's different ways to set it up to where you're essentially making it a little bit more passive and having more autonomy over your schedule, right?
Yeah, well, that's the good thing, because like if you're a person that like has to be in the office to like get you motivated, or if you want to be on this big team and the team wants you to be there Monday through Friday, then that's you. But for me, I don't want to. I'm like, I can't do that right now. So I like that I have the option. I can do what I want. So I can just be at home, and like I said, if I have my phone on me, so I can literally work on my phone wherever I'm at. So if I'm waiting to pick up my kid from school, I can, work on that. If, and then I work around my husband's schedule, or like on the weekends, because I never have clients that want to like look at houses during weekday hours. They always want to either go after work or on the weekends, which is perfect. So I try to like line it up to where, maybe if I have to drop my kids off at like a facility for a couple hours, then my husband can pick them up, or I can just send them to my husband's work for a little bit and he'll just bring them home. So it works out. But I learned to tell, not take everything or say yes to everything, for clients, because it's so hard at first when you're starting your business, because you just want to say yes to everybody, and but now it's like I learned, if they're like, oh, can we look at a house at this time, and if it doesn't fit my schedule, then I'm like, oh, I already have an appointment that time, how about this day and time, so I try to make sure I work everything around like my family time, and not be a yes girl as much.
I love the piece where you said most of your clients don't want to see houses until after work or on the weekend. Everybody that says, hey, I have a job, or, how can I do real estate part-time? Look, the people who are buying houses have a job. So they're working the same times you're working. Go ahead and get your license and then still do this on the side, right? And then controlling your schedule is huge, because I did the exact same thing. I was a yes man. Oh, I want to go see this. Yes, it'd be 1:00 in the morning. I'll get the code. I got you. But no, you have to be able to control it. And what you find over time is that the clients, they respect the limitations. If you say, hey, I'm only working from here to here, you can call me, I just won't pick up past these times, right? They learn to respect that, and they give you your space, and you can just move on and operate, at your leisure.
Yeah.
Time management is key. I love it. All right. So, so it sounds like for the most part, you've scheduled, are you Are you using any kind of like system to keep track of your schedule? I'm just curious. It's just kind of a random question, but are you like just notebook type? Or are you using like Google, something like that? Or because it
Yeah,
seems
I just use the calendar on my phone. I think it's like a Google
yeah.
calendar. So I just plug everything in there. And if it's like work related or something to make me money, I always make sure that's highlighted green for money. So I have like everything in there.
Excellent, excellent. So using the calendar to make sure that you are on top of your schedule, putting all the appointments in there, and making sure you're good to go. So that's awesome. So we talked about your first deal, talked about kind of some time management. Where are you at right now, right? And then as far as what your rental portfolio looks like, and then where are you trying to get to, or where do you see yourself going to in the next, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, especially being that your husband's about to retire?
Oh, geez. Yeah, well, I recently switched firms, and me and a couple of my friends, we started our own team, which is different than like any other team, I think, out there. But so hopefully, our planning is to grow that and to be a pretty large team in the Fayetteville area. So I'm excited. I think this year is going to be a great year for all of us. So, and it's
Really quick, I'm sorry. How are you different? Because I mean, you just talked about it, so now I'm curious. Like you said, so what is it that you're doing differently?
Since we don't have like actual like office space, but we work if we need to at one of our preferred lenders' office. If we need to go to office space, because I know a lot of teams that I worked with or like shadowed, they want you to be in the office during these days, this time, you have to be at their huddle meeting first thing in the morning. So we're not like that. And then a lot of times I heard the splits because, with your firm, you have whatever split with them. And then I've heard with a team, they take an extra percentage. So like some might take an extra like 50% of what commission you get back. So, which I feel like you're not really left with anything after all is said and done. So ours isn't like that. So we're not really giving any of our money. If we do get we're doing like rotations on phone, like sign calls. So if we do get like a lead from one of our listing sign calls, then we might put like 10% from our commission into our business fund.
I love the concept of the team that you guys have, because that is extremely unique, and how you guys are running that. But it seems like it's a great fit because you all come with similar aspirations, right? Similar situations. You said you're all moms. So you guys respect and value the freedom and flexibility that you guys have created. And now I think that is going to attract many more like-minded agents like you guys into that type of environment to grow that team. So that's wonderful.
Hey, the very, very last question, If you had to give any advice to any military spouse out there who's just starting off in their military career, or at least with their husband, what advice would that be?
Definitely, like, I don't know, don't let your fears hold you back if you want to do a career. Like, it's possible. Don't think just because, you're going to end up PCS'ing, you can't continue that business in like the next state, like real estate. You can get licensed and just keep building it wherever you go. And don't make sure you ask other realtors, like their input and opinions and what the day in the life of the actual realtor is, and don't just assume what they do. So make sure you get all the facts and information. So hopefully, if real estate is your thing, you can jump all in while you're young and not wait until you're older and have a bunch of kids like me and just go for it.
Awesome.
Excellent. That's excellent advice. Especially the mentor piece, because just like you talked about, I had the same misconception. I've been investing for, I don't know, I've been in real estate in some form or fashion for almost like 10 years now. And I still didn't think about the building your business out to be passive in the sense that, just getting referrals. So you're 100% right about that. Ask some realtors and basically find a mentor. So,
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So, definitely reach out to Jessica. We'll have all the links down below. I think the website is jessicadean.exprealty.com, facebook.com/jessica.carricker-dean. And we'll have all those links down below as well, so you can click on those. Hey, we just started a military cash flow Facebook group, so make sure you guys go on there. We got a lot of great content, a lot of great people putting information into the group. This is all about growth and building a community of other military investors. So you can find a great amount of information there. You can ask them any questions you want to. Make sure you check us out there. Also, the podcast, go ahead and leave a 5-star review if you will. We'd appreciate that. And then if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you like, comment, and share, and subscribe. And that's pretty much it. That's all we got. This is Dan Wynn.
And Mike Glaspie.
Signing off.